I'm going to explain trauma. A lot of people have the wrong definition about trauma.
Okay.
So trauma is not the experience you went through. That's what gets us really stuck. We're looking at the experience and we're like, my gosh, that was horrible. You shouldn't have gone through that, which is needed. It's to acknowledge the pain and the experience and how cruel humans can be against other humans. So honoring that space. What trauma is, though, is your nervous system created a definition. So it created a defense mechanism around the space, around your vulnerability, around your authenticity to protect it from experiencing living. So the trauma, every time you come back to try to come into that space is like Viktor Frankl says, between stimulus and response, there's a space. That's that space where we feel open and bliss and feel our heart open, as you can see me opening up my body and you can just resonate with what that looks like. Well, whenever an experience comes close to the experience that trauma defined as painful, it shuts down and don't go there. And so it starts signaling emotions. So what trauma is that defense mechanisms of the nervous system that's blocking you from vulnerability and authenticity. And it's also, if you haven't worked on your skill of discernment, you just ride on all the trauma and just shut everything off rather than allow curiosity to better understand what is going on inside. Because what you're feeling isn't wrong, just the way that you may be interpreting it is what needs to shift.
Welcome to Your Wordless podcast, the space where we redefine success, self-worth, and transformation. I am Nick Yaras, the soul-centered architect of transformation, helping you unlock your highest potential and build a legacy beyond limits. Now, whether it is self-mastery, career breakthroughs, or wealth creation, this is where change begins. Now let's dive in.
I want to thank you for allowing me to be in this space and trusting me with your audience. You know, this is a time where a lot of people can say a lot of things, put in some really catchy words, yet can they walk the talk that they are, marketing or, selling to people? And so I hope in this conversation that people can recognize that I hold a space for them to feel safe. That's the one major thing with healing and with the nervous system. That's why I have NatNat for the playfulness, so that you can shift your perception with it and you can have an openness rather than be rigid and strict. And also be able to be accountable and be honest with yourself. When those judgments come up and want to protect you, to disarm those and just be honest. Have a space of honesty, because if you don't know where you are, and if you won't acknowledge it, you're not able to access and embody it to start the change of it. Start the change of understanding the behavior and the reactions that you go into. So I'm looking forward to this deep dive, and I'm thankful to hold this space with you.
Oh, thank you so much for saying that. Means the world to me. Now, NatNat, I'm just gonna go with it. NatNat. I love when you mentioned there were so many things that you were mentioning, and things just start popping up in my head. Like, I want to know the delineation between feminine and masculine. I don't know, just somehow there's like a there was like a download that I need to ask you about that, because when you talk about healing, when you talk about flow, it means sitting with yourself, not exerting energy. And we need that because that's the will, that's the determination that makes us progress or go forward in life. But there's also that fine line of respecting and honoring oneself in a way that you need to process everything. So, which I think you are the best person to talk about this. And I like to take my listeners a trip down memory lane first before we start the deep dive. What was it like growing up as NatNat?
Oh, how was it growing up as NatNat? NatNat was very playful. NatNat, very curious. NatNat went beyond just conforming to things. She asked a lot of questions, which didn't feel good because, especially in religious aspects or education aspects, it's just do as you're told and don't question things. So when I had big questions about God and how could he punish you and other you out, but he's the all forgiving, all loving God, like those two concepts just don't make sense to me. Or why I was raised in the Catholic religion. So it was the priest was the only one allowed to touch the Bible, and we had to talk through the priest to talk to God. And it was like, why don't I have a connection through myself? Like, why do I have to go through the priest to get to
Mm-hmm.
God? Like, what is this three-way calling thing? And so, I laugh now, and I was serious about it, yet the adults didn't take too kindly to it. It agitated a lot of fear, and it's understandable. Like, we have a lot of BS in our mind, meaning belief systems. So there's the BS, the other kind of BS, but it's the belief systems that are created in our mind to create safety, to create that you can predict the unknown and the uncertainty. NatNat also experienced a lot of sexual trauma when she was young. So that created a lot of unsafety. It created a lot of doubt. It created a lot of me feeling like I was othered out of humanity, out of my worth, out of my knowing. So it was painful a lot. There was a lot of dark places, yet there was a lot of light still. Because everywhere I would go, people would enjoy or laugh around me or feel a little lighter. So it was a combination, and that's what makes me who I am now. And that's why I'm able to hold the space that I do now. Not from just theory or philosophy, even though those two are needed. It's a lot of lived experience. So when I speak and when I can, co-regulate with somebody else's nervous system, there is a safety because I understand some depths of human experiences and how we can shift our perception with that and not stay in that victim mode. Yet it didn't come overnight. There's been a lot of things that have gone on in my life. I'm just very thankful that the one thing I didn't separate completely from was my curiosity. My curiosity has helped me navigate through a lot of things that the majority of people would be broken down by now. Because even when I look at the landscape of my 51 years here on this earth, I'm like, wow, you went through some stuff and you've experienced some stuff and you've gone through some emotional landscapes and everything else. Therefore, it just gives me a depth of wisdom and knowing from that lived experience.
I want to go back to the part where you said you were playful until you weren't. I mean, I feel like there was you implied it that way, but is that true or is it not true? And why is that so? Because I think I want to go to the part where you said you experienced some trauma, and any kind of trauma, it's the varying degrees too. And we wouldn't wish that to happen to anybody. How did that affect you, and how did it manifest in the different aspects of your life? What did you feel
So
about yourself?
I'm going to explain trauma. A lot of people have the wrong definition about trauma.
Okay.
So trauma is not the experience you went through. That's what gets us really stuck. We're looking at the experience and we're like, my gosh, that was horrible. You shouldn't have gone through that, which is needed. It's to acknowledge the pain and the experience and how cruel humans can be against other humans. So honoring that space. What trauma is, though, is your nervous system created a definition. So it created a defense mechanism around the space, around your vulnerability, around your authenticity to protect it from experiencing living. So the trauma, every time you come back to try to come into that space is like Viktor Frankl says, between stimulus and response, there's a space. That's
Mm-hmm.
that space where we feel open and bliss and feel our heart open, as you can see me opening up my body and you can just
Mm-hmm.
resonate with what that looks like. Well, whenever an experience comes close to the experience that trauma defined as painful, it shuts down and don't go there. And so it starts signaling emotions. So what trauma is that defense mechanisms of the nervous system that's blocking you from vulnerability and authenticity. And it's also, if you haven't worked on your skill of discernment, you just ride on all the trauma and just shut everything off, rather than allow curiosity to better understand what is going on inside. Because what you're feeling isn't wrong, just the way that you may be interpreting it is what needs to shift.
Are you stuck in a job that you don't love, feeling like you're meant for more? It is not in your head, it is in your soul. I am Nick Yaras, and I help high achievers like you break free from burnout, rewire self-doubt, and build a life aligned with purpose through coaching, hypnotherapy, and soul activation. Because let's face it, real wealth isn't just about money. It is about aligned and happy heart, mind, and soul. Now, remember, you are worthy and you are enough. Let's transform your life together. Visit www.thenickyaras.holisticlifestyle.com to begin. How do you stay in that bliss location between stimulus and response? I got this. The same phrase, not really the same, but Deepak Chopra said this: between your thought, because a thought is an answer is a thought, a question is a thought. In between that's God's mind. That's silence. And you said it beautifully. Stimulus and response. In between that's the bliss. So how does one stay in that space, like continuously, that ideally? Can you do that?
You can be in presence, yet there's still the part of being human. Like, there's a lot of bypassing everybody wants to do. Just make it perfect for me.
Cutting corners.
It's like, that's not what the journey is. You can if you want to, yet you're missing depths of life. And being in presence is the space that everybody wants to be in. Yet it's also recognizing being in presence doesn't mean that you're not going to make mistakes. It doesn't mean that you're not still learning. Like, as much as like Deepak and all these high spiritual mentors and stuff, they're showing you the teaching, yet they're not always showing you what they have to deal with day in and day out. Like, there's a part of performative. There's a part of the spirituality aspect. Yet our inner terrain, not everybody, it's very difficult for somebody to acknowledge certain things. Like, I don't know if you know Michael Singer, The Untethered Soul. You've ever heard?
I've heard. Yeah.
He explains, what his process was. And he explains also too, like, oh, well, I don't listen to that part. Yet if it were, this is how I would talk to it. The reason that we get bumped out of the space presence is because our mind is a meaning making machine. So it always has to have meaning.
Yeah. Yes.
Yet if you don't have meaning to something, nothing bothers you. That's why children can break things and explore things, because there's no meaning attached to it. And then we get all ruffled with it. Don't touch my trophy. Oh my gosh, you touched the plaque. Oh my gosh, you touched the dishes.
You broke the fine china.
They don't know that. There's no meaning to them. That's why they're so open and free.
Talk about that playfulness, and why do we lose that when we grow up, when we live through all this horrendous experiences?
Before we go there, I want to bring you into a mindful moment. So, a lot of people want to use language with this, and you have to experience it. So I want to guide you into a mindful moment that I bring on to my podcast, and each guest and myself, because instead of telling people to meditate and do it, it's like, let's do it together. Let's model what we can do in our interactions and where we can reconnect with ourselves. Are you willing?
Yes, I'm open.
Okay.
Receiving mode.
And for the listeners, when I ask Nicolette and myself to close our eyes, most listen to this while they need their visuals. So safety first, don't close your eyes, yet you're able to follow the other prompts. So Nicolette, I'll ask you to get comfortable in your seating. And if it's safe to do so, gently close your eyes. And you're going to begin breathing in and out through your nose. You're going to bring your awareness to watching your breath go in and out through your nose. You're not going to try and control your breath. You're just going to be aware of its rhythm and allow it to guide you into your body. There may be some sensations or feelings coming up, and that's okay. Let them come up. You're safe to feel. You're safe to let go. Surrender the need to control. Release the need to resist and just be. Be with your breath. Drop deeper into your body. Now there may be some thoughts or to-do lists that have popped up in your mind, and that's okay. Gently bring your awareness back to your breath, creating space between the awareness and the thoughts and dropping deeper into your body. Being in the space of presence, the space of being. Again, more thoughts may have popped up. Gently bring your awareness back to your breath. Beginning again. Creating even more space between the awareness and the thoughts and completely falling into the body. Being in the space of being, in the space of presence. Now being in your senses and your body. At your own time and at your own pace, you're going to gently open your eyes while still staying with the breath. How's your heart doing?
It's calm down. The sensation that I'm feeling right now is that I'm hungry. It's like it's so amplified because everything else is quiet.
And this is what I help people to come out of their head and drop into their body, to listen to the wisdom. We bypass a lot of the signals that the body is sending up to us. And just because you hear a signal, it doesn't mean that you have to take action with it. Yet the body just wants to be validated also. Yet many of us don't know how to do the witnessing of ourselves, to validate ourselves. Validating doesn't mean that you agree with everything. It just means I see you.
It's profound.
You're in that space and you're like, I don't want to come out of it. I don't want to even come
Yeah.
out of it. I know. And that's exactly, if we were to do more check-ins, that's why I call them mindful moments and not meditation, because a lot of people have aversion hearing meditation. Yet if you just see, it was only 2 minutes that we did a check-in. I understand that my voice allows that co-regulation with the nervous system so people can go into that space and it doesn't feel so threatening, so overwhelming. And the more that you cultivate that, the more you can bring it into your everyday living. That before, sometimes as parents, we get reactive with our children. They may yell, they may do something, and we don't know how to pause, take a breath, and take accountability of what we're feeling, not just project it out to make the environment stop. So by cultivating this space, we can take a moment and be like, oh, I'm triggered. It's not them, it's me. I don't know how to be in this environment. So how can I recalibrate myself so I can find safety in here? It's all about safety. When the emotions come up and anger, when people are feeling angry, anger has such a bad reputation where it's a protective emotion. What is it protecting underneath it? And a lot of times it's vulnerability or the feeling of helplessness, the feeling of fear. We're in a society that, don't acknowledge the fear. Fear is garbage. It's love against fear. And it's like, well, the fear is your humanness. It's your nervous system. There's such thing as healthy fear. Like if you're about to fall off a cliff, your body's going to signal, no, we could die. So it is healthy to have some of those signals and understand, I understand you feel that, but there's other things that, I have a parachute that's going to protect me. So just to say that, love is against fear, it's like, no, let fear fall into love so they can integrate and melt into each other. It's not choosing one or the other. It's about the integration of spirituality with the humanness of the experience.
Hi, I'm Nick Nieras, your host of the Your Wordless podcast. Now, if these real raw stories hit home, don't wait. Please follow, like, and subscribe my Spotify and YouTube. For bite-sized inspirational reels, follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn. Don't wait. Your transformation starts today. Thank you, and bye for now. I love when you talk about let fear melt into love. Can you give an example a case study?
I can't give you a case study of that because I'm not into the scientific and trying to get grants for data and everything else. I can only speak from my own experience of, say, for instance, when somebody has hurt you very deeply and there is a jaded part of your heart that just emanates anger and loathing and just hating that person and just hating, not recognizing that it's the fear of this repeating or not feeling seen or not feeling validated. Yet the more that you come within yourself and you have love within yourself, the signal of fear starts to diminish. And then all of a sudden, love can come and transform. And you can have your heart open of, see you. I have a better perspective of possibly why you did the things that you do. I also have discernment not to be around you because you may not have done your work to be a decent human being. Yet my work is to keep my heart open. So if I'm not acknowledging the fear within myself, I don't even realize that I'm not even in love right now. I think case studies of that would be Nelson Mandela being in prison and still asking the guards that buried him and did things to come and eat in his home. Those are levels I would love to be able to achieve. I don't know if I will be able to ever do that in my lifetime. Yet we have some significant people that have demonstrated what it is to be human and to make a different choice.
Love thyself, love your neighbors as you want to be loved. There's a fine line between selflessness and being overgiving, in a sense. What is your take on that?
When you're overgiving, you're looking for safety. The people pleasing, the making other people's emotional thermostats be on high because if they're low, you feel threatened, you don't feel good enough, you don't feel valued. That's safety. You're looking on the outside for your safety. You're grasping on the outside for your safety. And you haven't even been able to honor your own boundaries of, is my cup still staying full? It's what ran over with. That's what you're supposed to be sharing. Yet many are running on an empty cup and wondering, why am I burnt out, exhausted? Where it's like, well, all that you're trying to overachieve or give, it's safety. And it's a real thing because it's viscerally active in your body. If I don't see the smiles on somebody else's face or hear the praises by others or feeling the longing that they need me, it doesn't feel good in my body. So reshaping that nervous system and allowing it to come back into the space, to disarming those defense mechanisms that trauma created a narrative that this is how we will create our safety. Rewiring all that, it takes tremendous strength. That's why I call it warrior work. It's not just, there's many of us, we know what to do. I know better. I know what to do. Yet why do I still keep doing the same darn patterns? Because the embodiment is needed. There's levels to this. It's coming back into the body, actually feeling the mechanisms that get charged up, that twist your stomach when, there's fear coming up, or the palpitation in your heart, or recognizing, oh, the making meaning machine is going, and I don't even realize until I drop in. It's like, why am I doing that? But these are patterns. And if you haven't learned to do the interruption of that, to listen to biologically what is going on, to hear what the signals are, you just knee-jerk reaction and keep going back into the patterns.
So those listening, right, something might have stirred within them. And people coming to you, NatNat, how do you help them? How do they begin their journey with you?
Well, that mindful moment that we just did, I have a workshop right now that's called emotional sobriety. So it's explaining to them more in depth of what I call an emotional response cycle. And so they can visually see what's going on inside them. And then I bring them into a more profound practice of being in the body, being in stillness, listening to wisdom, listening to whatever prompts the body is saying, so that they can get a better glimpse of the opening. Is it a fix-all? No. This is a continuous journey of using these tools to remind yourself, where's that space? Am I in the space or did I get bumped out of it? because the nervous system is kicking and thrashing. So the work that I do with people is letting them be honest with themselves. I am not here to fix anybody. I'm not here to convince anybody. I'm here to guide you into your own biology and empowerment, because everybody's experiences, everybody's perception is different. I'm in Canada right now. You're in Malaysia. We're connecting right now, but we're having totally different experiences because of our environment. Does one make one better than the other? No. Our biology is interpreting through the senses of what we are experiencing on this earth. So it's going to bring a different interpretation, a different dynamic. At the root of it, our humanity is still the same. And we can connect into that space. What we mostly get caught up in, how I visually show it, is everybody's at the table and that there's food. And rather than share what the experience of the food feels like and what it texture and the feeling, everybody's nitpicking on, you're using a knife and fork, you're using chopsticks, you're using your hands, you're using a spoon. You're not supposed to, that's not the right way, that's not the right. While we're all eating the same food, people are, the method and the way that you eat that food is dictated by who is the holier than thou or who is the best. Where there isn't a one size fits all in this humanness. It's, are you going within yourself to better understand yourself and be aware of that inner critic? The nervous system has a language and it's built out of negative bias. So when the inner critic comes in, it's understand why it has a negative bias. It has one function, don't die. Yet when it gets too amplified, that's where suicidal ideation comes in, because psychologically, it is very painful because it's viscerally sending these chemicals in your body. So nowhere do I want to diminish anybody's experience and be like, oh, just easier said than done. No, this shit ain't easy. It's simple. It's not easy to practice it. It's not easy to be aware and always being awake to what your presence is, being awake to what the patterns are. And sometimes you need to fall asleep because it's overwhelming.
Oh, it is.
You just have self-compassion and radical compassion for yourself. And be around people that understand the depth of this, that will remind you to have that compassion for yourself, that will keep you accountable of where's your path and where you're supposed to be. Yeah, don't put yourself on the hook so that you go back way beyond where the patterns first began. You're just beginning again. Don't start with the self-loathing and judgment. Bring context and understanding. Life is lifing. All the tools that I have, you know, my friend just died in November, 2-year journey with cancer. By her side, she was in hospice for 8 days. Watch that. I go to Barbados, integrate. Another friend dies from cancer. My car gets into an accident that I didn't get in an accident, gets completely written off. So I had loss, loss. And here I am showing up. Do I have my moments where my nervous system is just bringing me into a dark hole? Yeah, it does. Yet I also know the tools to use.
Wow. You're really walking the talk. And how long did it take you? What was your journey to get to where you are right now? You mentioned 51 years of age. And how did you come to realize about all of this? Like, when did your journey, your awakening happen? When did it start?
When I was young, I wanted to be a child psychologist. I saw the world in a way that most wouldn't. I saw it the way it was, but we're led into like a fairy tale of the way life is, and we don't allow emotions to be in our conversations because it's just an inconvenience and can't be bothered with it. Yet I didn't listen to that calling within myself. I, listened to the masses. You got to do this, you got to do that. That would be too. So I listened to that aspect. And as life would have it, it had me be a parent so I could learn about children in a very deep way.
Hands-on.
And I have twins that are 15 right now. So I have 3 boys. So, I always had this light where people would always, like, I was in security investigation with the government, and they used to be, you're like sunshine in this dark cloudy environment. Like, why are you working here? And
why are you here?
you're bringing this glimmer in. I'm just like, well, that's just the way. And I thought that the way that I saw things in people and saw their inner terrain, that everybody saw that. I thought automatically, you can't see that they're nervous or they're in fear or they're sad or they're working through something. I thought everybody read those cues. Yet they don't. At the age of 40, that's when the big awakening happened, is that I had lesions in my brainstem and in my cerebellum, and my body was in crisis and shutting down. And therefore, I was admitted into the hospital and I was told I was going to die, and I only had about 6 months to live. So I was there, like I said, for 40 days. So they went through a battery of tests. And at the end, I still didn't have a diagnosis. So they discharged me. And if you don't have a diagnosis, you don't have a plan. Therefore, the only way I could go in, the only place I could go was within. If I would have a diagnosis, and if I would have put my faith into the medical system, I don't know if I would have this depth of opening. So in that, I also had a lot of empathy. You know, we talk about big pharma, we get angry with the doctors, we get angry with this, and it's like they're simply going through a narrative that they believe in. Big pharma, yeah, their narrative is profit. If we can keep people subdued in certain things, they do think that they are helping people. It's just long term. Like short term, yeah, some of these things really help, but long term, boy, what a mess we're creating more and more with things. So in that, you know, I was left in the wilderness. The twins were only 4. I was a solo parent, a body that has barely any energy. I had to switch up my whole lifestyle and do slow and steady, not chastise the twins that they have all this high energy and a trauma, because, you know, you've experienced that your parent is almost going to die at 4. That creates, this vulnerability doesn't feel safe. So in that, I learned meditation a year later. And once I learned meditation in the form of TM, transcendental meditation, that allowed me to drop into my nervous system and really have a seat with it and somatically release all of those emotional charges and trauma defense mechanisms that were in there, so that I could be in the space of presence and also shift my perception. The thing about healing, the biggest thing is shifting the perception, not being in the pessimism, being allowed to be in the optimism and really believing it. Because a lot of people used to be like, you always see the bright side of things. You always see like all points. That's been me all the time, that I could always see different perspectives, not just be closed-minded of it's only this way. Yet in that, you know, the defense mechanisms would get triggered, and then I would belittle myself and dim myself, not thinking that I had anything to offer into the world. So this awakening now removed a lot of that. And it's like, there's so much depth that you can offer to others, that they can see what's within themselves.
I just want to express my gratitude to you for the honesty and the candidness and your vulnerability, sharing your story with us. And I think it's so important to let people know, because the ones listening or watching us could be saying, hey, they're on the brink of something. That's why they're drawn to this kind of conversations. But it's the fear of safety, of I've always known what I've known before, and I don't know what I don't know if I were to let go of what I used to believe. And that takes courage, that takes trusting, it takes faith. And through that, it's also about facing the deepest parts of yourself. They call it the shadow work or the dark night of the soul. And those parts of ourselves are not pretty. And for me, 5 years in, I've cleared some, and there are things, and everybody that we meet is just a reflection of, if we're triggered, there's something that needs to be addressed still. And you just keep on poking in a way that you're unraveling, or just looking at the root cause as to why do you still react this way. And and we're healing, not to say that this is a one-time thing when they come to you for healing session, or just it's a journey, right? Because healing is until we're still here on 3D plane, before we're healing before we're, until we're 6 feet underground. So it's also important to be compassionate, and at the same time, I think I want to talk about playfulness, really reigniting that spark, that inner child, and connecting that with excitement. Because, okay, I'll just take myself for example. I've learned the work, like in the mind, the mental. I've done the work, the understanding in the heart. But then sometimes I cannot help but to think that I want to be so excited about something, but something within me says, "Oh, Nick, what happens? What if you're excited again and it doesn't turn out the way you planned it to be, or you hoped it to be?" So it's that breaking through of really stepping into that inner child and say, "Like, I am free, whatever that is, whatever it is, and I want to pursue, embodying it like fully as a kid again." NatNat, help me out.
I want to come back. Okay, I want to come back to something. The way that you describe the shadow work, not many people would want to do that work, because you're talking about digging and poking and prodding. And I get it, because that's how it feels.
Mm.
However, what I have been introducing to my clients is ask yourself what you're protecting. You're not trying to fight against yourself. There's not something evil in yourself, even though it feels like it. Because say if you have to dredge up and look through, while I was in Barbados, a wound has surfaced. As you said, people reflect things. So a lot of things were done to me by action, yet I have the clarity of it's not them, it's me. So what is being reflected that I need to look at? So it brought me into the wound of one of the experiences about my sexual trauma. And I saw it through the little girl's eyes. I didn't only just see it through the little girl's eyes, I felt all of the things that were going on in my body at that same time. So it gave me an understanding of this situation has all the similarities of not being listened to, the stories changed, I feel harmed, I feel not valued. All of that is signaling this same wound that I went through when I was a little child. To get to that profoundness took a lot of work. So, that's not to say like this came overnight. Sometimes it does for people. Yet, and that's why a lot of people will do some psychedelics and everything else, because it could just help ease the overwhelm. But that's why some people can have some really bad trips because of what's coming on and how they're willing to open up. So when we're talking about shadow work and the dark night of the soul, that's why I bring in playfulness. I also have the question, what are you protecting? What are you not willing to feel? Because it's those authentic emotions that are trying to surface that we never were able to interact with. So they feel like foreign entities and overwhelm that's coming up.
Let me answer to you right now. I have it in mind. I am protecting that feeling of disappointment.
What's underneath disappointment?
My heart's going to be broken again.
And what does that feel like?
That I'm not as successful as I thought I would be.
Why do you need that?
To prove to myself that I could achieve those things.
How do you know you're not doing that?
There's certain restrictions about me being open to whatever that I envision, it's going to play out for me.
Feel back into the heartbreak. Now, have you been in that space before?
Yes.
How did you come out of it?
Battered, bruised, almost like blaming myself for making that decision.
Okay. The blame is protecting something. What is the blame protecting? Breathe, you're not breathing. Take a deep breath in. Just keep your eyes closed and ask the blame. Ask the blame internally. You don't have to say it out loud. Just ask the blame what it's protecting. Just listen to what the body says. And if you need, put your hand on your heart to create safety. Now, most times when we're blaming ourselves, it's that we're not allowing ourselves to be in our worth. There's sometimes a narrative that when there's mistakes that are experienced, that isn't worth, which those experiences are part of the human experience of learning. Yet there's possibly a part where your intuition tried to speak to you and you didn't listen to it. So now it's to listen to the body's wisdom and trust yourself, trust the intuition. When the excitement comes and it wants to be squished because of past experiences, it's to remind yourself what happened before isn't happening now. And I'm allowed to feel excited. I also have to remember that I have the capacity to go through the waves of experiencing. How is that landing in your body?
Found the answer. I did not forgive myself for taking that decision. And because I did not forgive, I felt guilty. There's a new thing that's coming, and I'm restricting myself to really go full force with that excitement. It's like my intuition was saying, hey, Nick, you shouldn't take it this way, but still, I went ahead. And then that happened. And now that I've cleared all of those, I've understood those feelings, I may have forgiven myself. They were like fragments. Now I'm about to step into something that's super new and something that's super deep down, it's aligned. But some fragments from the past, the mistakes that you've made, it's still like I was still holding on to that because I didn't fully give myself the permission to forgive myself, the inner child, and say, Nick, it's okay. You made a mistake, but you know better now. And this is what you called for, and this is where you're going ahead, and you manifested this from your heart, and this is it. So you're allowed to feel excited. And all the times that, because I know, but anytime that I feel excited in something, it is sure going to be fire. Yeah.
So you explained
Thank
and
you.
you demonstrated beautifully where you said the fragmented, and I bring people back into their wholeness with a W, not the holes with an 8. And that was a frightened part that always pulled and tugged at you, that because you haven't validated and seen me yet. You haven't acknowledged that, okay, this was pretty scary and we don't want to experience this again. These are part of the signals of the nervous system. That was part of fear. Yet you can bring it into the love and say, yeah, I know you kind of annoy me sometimes because you're always pulling me back or not letting me expand big. Yet I can acknowledge you. And if I do, then you won't tug so hard. You'll be part of me, not separate from me. Because I'm, embarrassed, shame, guilt, blame, all those things. We recognize when you're feeling that, it's because you haven't integrated. And they're protective. I know it sounds very counterintuitive. It might sound a little nuanced, yet you understand biologically what just happened for yourself.
Oh, we unlocked something live here on the show. I love you, NatNat. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. You're welcome. That's why I said, people use some big words about what they can provide to people. And all I'm, showing people is what I have as lived experience and how I can guide. Yet it takes people's willingness. You were willing. You've been doing the work. Somebody else, it may not have been that way because they still have to work through that defense mechanism of their nervous system. But thank you for honoring myself and the listeners of seeing real time what it looks like to do this inner work.
Thank you. That was the last bit. Yay, I can feel like it's like I'm a horse, like running bridled already, like go, Nick, go.
You know what's funny is my book that I'm writing right
that.
now is about telling you the nervous system is the horse.
Oh my.
So we're very
I'm
aligned
psychic.
right now.
It's like I'm psychic. We're at the right frequency.
Yeah.
Oh. And the people that is the tribe will be attracted to this message. It's automatic. Ooh, that was the last clearing, Nat. I love it. Okay, now what are you working on currently?
As I said, the emotional sobriety workshop launched last week. So people can find it on my website, liftoneself.com. I do one-on-one sessions also. I'm also working on my book right now that I'm hoping to get done by summer so that it can be out there. I'm also working on a 4-week container called Raw Healing. So it'll bring you in more profound depth of doing this work, understanding, and being in a community. Because when we can be in a community and we can witness each other, it just brings a different strength of being able to be seen. Because doing this work just in the dark, that's one layer and it's pretty easy. Yet when you can be vulnerable and see that you're not harmed and people actually accept you for who you are in that moment and want to see the betterment of you, not feel the judgment of people, that brings a different type of supercharge in that elixir of trusting yourself, being in your worth, and validating yourself. So everything's on liftoneself.com. I also have a podcast. Lift Oneself, and you can find me on all the social media platforms also, Lift Oneself.
Beautiful. That was amazing. This is what happens when you're open. Now, I've been doing the work for the past 5 years, and still right now, there's still parts of me. So those listening, I am not perfect, far from perfect, and still working through some things as well because I am human. I think if they could take that one step, any immediate step right now is to just be open, at least what they can see. But for you, NatNat, what do you want to leave them with?
To remember to be kind to themselves. There is no arriving in this journey. The mind will want you to feel like you arrived. Like the way you're explaining this and you're like, yeah, the clearing, it was the final one. And in my head, I'm like, okay, well, there's going to be more that's going to come. But it's just, there's more depth. Yet, anytime you feel like it's daunting, it's to remind yourself, oh, there's some emotions that I haven't felt before. And I'm going back into patterns and I'm not really knowing how to self-trust. So recalibrating to somebody else that can remind you where the space is. That's why we need, not that, like, we're here to share our experiences with each other. So that kindness, especially when that nervous system is dysregulated, is the best medicine that you can have with yourself. And when I say kindness, it doesn't mean being passive and just letting yourself get away with everything. It's having some discernment, yet having kindness of giving context, not just coming, oh, you did something wrong. Allow some context in there. Explain why you did so you can better understand. If it comes up again, I have the tools to better discern.
Are you on TED Talk? Not yet.
I know, right? That's what a lot of people have said to me. They're like, why are you? And I'm like, it's just not the time yet. Just not the time yet. My mind goes to like, oh, if I have such great gifts for people, why is my platform not blowing up? And always spirits like it's not time yet.
It's in the making. Divine timing. NatNat. Okay. I'm going to pivot to a self-worth question. This is a question I ask to every one of my guests. And the question for you today would be, imposter syndrome can be a significant barrier to personal and professional growth. Can you share an experience where you faced this and how you overcame it?
Doing this work is imposter syndrome.
Exactly.
Because I have
The
to
other part to
reveal myself, but
do you-
also hold space for somebody else. And is like, is it going to come out? Is it going to work for the person? Is this all just like woo-woo stuff? I deal with
I
imposter
love
syndrome
how
all the
open
time.
you are.
Time. My book, the book has been something in the making for like 9 years now. And only this year have I been able to really unlock and just let it flow out. And I'll really see my blockages of allow yourself to be seen. Even if nobody buys the book, even if nobody comes, you showed up for yourself. And I have to work in that loving myself, that if I don't show up for myself, who am I showing up for? It's safety again.
Yes.
I'm grasping.
Again, there's something within me. Yes.
It's like, so the imposter syndrome isn't something that goes away. It's just be real with it. Speak with it. It's the body. It's come back into your body. The only reason why I could have this language so vividly is because I'm embodying things. I'm in the body. It took a long journey to get back into my body. However, it's like, okay, embody. and connect and have that Trinity. You know, the mind, body, soul, it's that Trinity, not just spiritual bypassing and stoicism. Like, I'm very stoic. That's what can get me through a lot of things. Yet I'm not stoic to the point that I have no emotions, because I still want to feel the vibrancy of life. I still want to experience the human experience and not come out of here like perfection. Actually be able to embody and allow the gift to be refined and to be offered. Because all I'm offering to people is to go within themselves. But it sounds so very foreign and not possible.
You heard it live here on the show. It is possible. So, NatNat, what is your heart's greatest wish?
Fully trust myself.
I felt that. With that, you just showed again to me and to our listeners that you are human. You performed that live to that clearing. But again, fully trust yourself. And it's a continuous journey. I love it.
When I say to fully trust myself, it's reminding myself, okay, when the little parts are frightened and want to block, remember, this isn't my work. It's source coming through me.
You're just casually dropping some sprinkling some magic dust here.
It's source coming through me. So the reason why our frequency and our vibration can go in such a depth is because we've done the clearing so source could communicate through the two and remind that human part of, it's okay, you're still held. Even in all of the pain and the anguish, it's still remembering where to come back home to. And we tend to grasp on the outside to have somebody else soothe us, that we forget that we are the one to soothe ourselves, that we have that power. Because source is within us. That's what trauma does. It separates from that. Not in a bad way, not in an evil way. Like, let's thank trauma. It's a very intelligent part of the nervous system that's protected you through your childhood, that you didn't have a voice. You weren't able to advocate. You didn't understand what was going on. You didn't know how to trust yourself. Yet now that part isn't serving you anymore. So it's to release it. Yet that's easier said than done. You have decades sometimes of patterns and processes and experiences. And, you know, if you've never felt emotions, oh, that's messy and disgusting. It's very disorientating, and just, you're making me drop my mask of performance. I can't do that. Can't do that. The heck are you doing? No, 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 no. This is unsafe. And it's valid. There's liberation when you can be yourself, because nobody can take that away from you. They can try, you know.
I'm just embodying everything you just said.
I love this.
I love this too. You are, you've definitely done the work. You're an earth angel. I don't, we know it when we connect. It transcends beyond just mere connection. You see it. I see your soul and you see mine. And I want to thank you for your openness, your honesty, your candidness. Again, Nat, okay, before we close this off, if you could create a quote right now for you to leave to the audience listening, and the world is your legacy, what would it be?
So remember to be kind to yourself.
And take a deep breath. Awesome. So, Nat, people can reach out to you through your website, which is liftoneself.com, and through all of your social media. Any last message before we part with the listeners?
I want to thank you for creating a platform and a space for so many seekers, that they can feel safe. The way that you create such safety in the space as a host only allows the guests to be so much more profound and in depth and provide honesty, which is such a benefit for the listeners. So thank you for cultivating this space in the platform world, the world, period. So I want to thank you for that. And for the listeners, at any time, if something resonated or there was an aha moment, you know, just reach out, just ask me any question, find out if there was, I'd also like feedback of what you liked about the podcast, what you liked about the conversation. And, you know, just make sure that you like, subscribe, share, review, and comment on Nicolette's podcast. These are the things that help this podcast grow and really amplify the community that she is cultivating. So if you can just go and do that really quickly, I would really appreciate that. So thank you.
Thank you, NatNat, for the beautiful. I don't know. It's just oozing that sharing from a podcaster to podcaster. We're just trying to, even if it's just one person listening to this right now, and if it has impacted you in any way, now that means we've done the work, you and I.
1 in a million.
Exactly. And that is a wrap on today's inspiring episode with Natalie NatNat Bedard. Thank you for your wisdom and your work, Nat, and your dedication to continue uplifting others. For our listeners, this has been Your Worthless. Read that again, the juxtaposition of your very soul. Now, if you've ever felt worthless, remember you are not alone. Your soul chose to be here, to matter, and for that reason alone, you are worthy. A huge thank you to you again, NatNat, and to all of you for listening. Until next time, I am Nick Nyaras. Keep shining, keep growing, and always remember, you are worthy and you are enough. See you in the next episode. Thank you, Nat. Hi, Natalie. Good morning to you. How are you doing today?
Well, Nicolette, and if you're playful, you can call me NatNat.
It sparked out. It's like my inner child. It's like calling to you and like Nat, like the kid in you. Like Nat, let's play. Okay, I think I'm gonna go with that. I am doing very well, Nat. I hope you are too. And I'd like to introduce you to all of our listeners today and myself first. Formally, my name is Nicolette. I am the creator for the podcast titled Your Worthless. Read that again, the juxtaposition of your very soul. Now, today we're going to talk about redefining self-worth, emotional healing, and overcoming trauma on how to process these feelings. So I'd like to introduce you to all of our listeners first, and then we can get right into conversation. Hello, everyone. We have Natalie Bedard here with us, or lovingly known as NatNat. She's an emotional healing specialist and the founder of Lift OneSelf. Now, through her trauma-informed and trauma-competent approach, she guides individuals towards emotional sobriety, helping them regulate their nervous systems, release emotional pain, and coming home to themselves. Now, very short introduction, but packed with a punch. So welcome, Natalie, to the show. Love this episode? Now, transformation doesn't end here. Head on to @holistic.lifestyle_with_Nick. That is on my Instagram. Or head on to my website, www.denick.holisticlifestyle.com for more info on my coaching framework, which is the Worthy, Authentic, and Abundant Framework, digital guides, and my upcoming events such as retreats and master classes and workshops. Now, I also do intuitive readings where we get to check on your soul path